In 1894, the American author Morgan Robertson published a novella titled Futility. It tells the story of a British ocean liner named the Titan, the largest and fastest ship in the world. It was considered unsinkable by its designers at the time. On the second day of its maiden voyage, the Titan hit an iceberg, capsized, and sank, killing everyone on board. 14 years later, the Titanic would meet an eerily similar fate. The phenomenon of life imitating art creates a sense that history possesses an invisible architecture, and the membrane between fiction and reality is far more porous than we realize. Events have a way of foreshadowing themselves, then leaving their traces to affect the future. Myth and fiction intuits this architecture through synchronicity. It is my opinion that we can glean the cyclical nature of time by using creative symbolism and astrology. Despite being labeled a pseudoscience, astrology continues to captivate us. Its symbolism has a mimetic quality which approximates the patterns of life. I'm going to try to use it here to peek beyond the horizon of the obvious and the material and attempt to glean deeper insights from the ethereal. I will also create an illustration inspired by the topics I talk about using pencil, ink, and gouache. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, and subscribe. My name is Black Sheep, and this is the Cosmic Everything. On June 18th, the Titan Submersible began its descent as the sun was in transit through the astrological sign of Gemini. Gemini season lasts for 1 month, from May 21st to June 21st, and has a broad-reaching effect on how we process information and communicate. Every astrological sign is associated with the ruling planet. Gemini is associated with the planet and Roman god Mercury. Mercury is the messenger of the gods. He travels across the heavens, delivering messages, and shepherds dead souls to the underworld. In Greek mythology, the zodiac sign of Gemini is also associated with the Dioscuri twins. The Dioscuri twins were brothers named Castor and Pollux, born to different fathers, yet inseparable and connected by a deep bond. Gemini, symbolized by the twins, represents duality and the capacity to embody contrasting qualities. We're going to explore key archetypes of Gemini season, including the trickster, the shepherd, the twins, and the messenger. On June 16th, the Titan Submersible, operated by Oceangate, set out aboard the MV Polar Prince from the coast of Newfoundland. The goal of the expedition was to ferry 4 passengers to the wreckage of the RMS Titanic. The mission went horribly wrong, and a catastrophic implosion killed everyone on board. Richard Stockton Rush III was the CEO of Oceangate and the engineer, builder, and pilot of the Titan Submersible. Educated at Princeton University, Rush was a flight test engineer and a venture capitalist who founded his own submarine company. While building his submersibles, he took shortcuts, skipped certifications, and issued waivers to passengers to relieve him of responsibility if anything went wrong. He once told a reporter that, quote, "At some point, safety is just pure waste." In my opinion, his attitude towards safety and his willingness to take risks align with the archetype of the trickster. In folklore, the trickster uses their intellect and insight to circumvent rules and defy conventional behavior. The cultural anthropologist Paul Radden describes the trickster as, quote, "The trickster is at one and the same time creator and destroyer, giver and negator, he who dupes and who is always duped himself." These contradictions are inherent in Richard Stockton Rush. He's brilliant enough to build a submersible, but too foolish to heed the warnings of his colleagues about safety. He's a builder who destroys lives. He tried to offer people a unique experience, but took everything from them instead. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung associated the archetype of Gemini with the trickster. Jung wrote, quote, "The trickster's role is to demystify us by shaking up our world and collapsing all our built inner structures through our own mutability. They in turn shatter our illusions of what we believe life to be." This shattering of structures can be both applied figuratively and literally to Stockton Rush and the Titan disaster. The Greek god Mercury is also a shepherd of souls, responsible for guiding the dead to the underworld, leading them to their resting place. Without his guidance, the souls roam the earth, lost for eternity. There are strong symbolic parallels between these archetypal elements and the actions of Stockton Rush. The deepest part of the ocean is called the Hedal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. Just like the god Mercury, Rush shepherded himself and his passengers to the underworld to join the ghost of the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean. In many ways, the story of the submersible Titan and the cruise ship Titanic emulate the Greek myth of Gemini twins Castor and Pollux. Castor died after being pierced by a spear, prompting Pollux to plead with Zeus, his father, for an eternal union. Zeus grants their requests, immortalizing them as the constellation Gemini, symbolizing their everlasting connection to one another in the night sky, standing side by side forever intertwined. At 11:40 p.m. on April 14, 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg. The collision ripped a series of holes below its waterline. The ship sank, taking 1,517 lives. On June 22nd, the first day of Cancer season, at 1:18 p.m., the Odysseus 6K ROV discovered the remains of the Oceangate submersible Titan resting near the wreck of the Titanic. The U.S. Coast Guard held a press conference. Rear Admiral John Mauger informed the media that the submersible was found, confirming a catastrophic loss of pressure. The similarities of these twin disasters, the callousness and the blatant disregard for the forces of nature by the crew, and their final eternal union at the bottom of the ocean fills one with a sense that these events outline the architecture of time. These contours become visible when we think about the relationship in terms of Gemini season. Just as Castor and Pollux found eternal companionship, the Titan and the Titanic will forever be intertwined in our collective consciousness. When we view these vessels as archetypes, they embody the myth of the Gemini twins. One perished before the other, with both ultimately united, ensuring they would never be apart. In Western astrology, Gemini season rules communication, coordination, thoughts, ideas, and information. Gemini, as represented by Mercury, seeks diverse experiences. The quest for knowledge, communication, and the exchange of information are central to Gemini's essence. Our ideas travel through synapses in the same way photons travel across telecommunication networks, circulating information. This is the essence of Gemini's season, the transfer of information through technology. In this way, the telecommunication network becomes an extension of our nervous system. Ideas generated in our minds are released into the world through fiber optic cables and satellites. The media we consume is integral to our perception of reality. By ruling information, Gemini season also currently rules the archetype of our world's thoughts. The media theorist Marshall McLuhan famously said that the medium is the message. What he meant was that the content of the medium was secondary to the effect of the medium itself. The message holds no particular significance. It is ultimately nothing more than entertainment, a distraction. But the quantity of media which saturates our collective consciousness with an ocean of messages drowns us with its sheer volume. And so we're bombarded by an endless stream of opinions, truth, lies, and everything in between. Each event is endlessly dissected, speculated, and parsed through. We lose the forest for the trees, incapable of seeing the big picture and making rational decisions about what truly deserves our attention. As soon as the media began reporting on the missing submersible, the story became international news. With hourly updates, media outlets from around the world reported on how emergency search and rescue operations involving the US and Canadian Navy and Coast Guards raced against time to find the 5 men trapped inside the submersible at the bottom of the ocean. A slew of talking heads, pundits, and experts of all backgrounds weighed in, speculating on the fate of the men. There was clear and stark differences in the opinions regarding their fate. While the Coast Guard remained cautiously optimistic, giving updates regarding the challenges and technical aspects of the search, experts from the diving community gave bleaker assessments. Given the experimental nature of the craft and the sudden loss of communication, the most likely scenario was a catastrophic implosion of the hull. And yet, despite these assessments, the main story playing across the screen was that 5 men were trapped at the bottom of the ocean, waiting to be rescued, banging on the hull while running out of air. Gemini rules over the lungs, the hands, and the nervous system. These elements were implicitly present in media coverage of the submersible. The media framed the story as a race against time thriller, as more and more resources were marshaled to aid in the search and rescue operation. We were told that the submersible was running out of oxygen. At 12 p.m. on Thursday, June 22nd, the men would suffocate at the bottom of the ocean. Media embodies the god Mercury in 2 ways. First, by communicating information. Second, by deceiving us with the information it chooses to omit. As we were transfixed by the spectacle of infotainment, a slow-rolling tragedy was unfolding across the globe. A true and ongoing horror story of desperate people embarking on the deadliest sea journey on Earth in hopes of salvation. Tens of thousands of people have died crossing the North African to Italy sea route. On June 14, 2023, 4 days before the Titan disaster, the fishing boat Adriana departed from Tobruk, a port city in Libya. It was smuggling migrants, people fleeing ongoing crises across North Africa, Middle East, and Asia. The Adriana was packed far beyond her capacity. It is estimated that there were around 750 people aboard, including over 150 women and children. The god Mercury, a patron of commerce, travelers, and thieves, is the perfect archetype for human smugglers, predatory individuals preying on desperate people in the global south. Migrants pay them thousands of euros to be transported to Italy. The migrants are then packed into small fishing vessels where they're not given any food or water. The women and children are separated from the men, who are beaten if they disobey rules. Midway through the journey, Adriana's engine stalled. When the Greek Coast Guard attempted to tow her, the ship began listing, and at 2 a.m. on June 14th, it tilted and sank, sending its passengers into the Ionian Sea. No one on board was wearing a life jacket. The Greeks managed to rescue 104 survivors. Out of 750, all were men. The women and children were locked in the ship's cargo hold, unable to escape, clinging to each other as the vessel sank to the bottom of the sea. The incident was barely covered by Western media. The lack of media coverage is also a key component of Gemini season, which prefers chaotic sensationalism to the understated gloom of real news. Gemini season ended. On June 22nd, the first day of Cancer season, at 1:18 p.m., the Odysseus 6K ROV discovered the remains of the Oceangate submersible Titan resting near the wreck of the Titanic. After 4 days of hand-wringing, the media informed us that all 5 men were dead, killed instantly when the Titan's hull imploded. And just like that, our interest waned. The erratic, fast-moving nature of Gemini gave way to moody, introspective Cancer season. The media began to focus on internal problems, a failed coup in Russia, and a series of controversial conservative rulings in the US Supreme Court. On June 16, 2023, Greek authorities arrested 9 suspected smugglers in connection with the Adriana migrant boat disaster. The men, all of Egyptian descent, were to be indicted for mass murder. A 40-year-old Egyptian national was arrested in London, accused of masterminding the illegal migrant boat crossing. He is suspected in organizing other crossings, many of which require rescue, each netting the smugglers over $3 million.
When these patterns are shown to them. These patterns are curiously reminiscent of the pointillism of the 19th century artist Seurat, whose beautifully integrated paintings are formed by countless computer-like dots and dashes.
It's easy to say that we should not let media manipulate our attention, but it's much harder to put into practice. I was captivated by the events of the Titan disaster, only to find out about the Adriana tragedy while doing research for this video. Astrology allows me to be more mindful, to consider and reflect on events and behaviors that I would otherwise take for granted. For me, this experience has been an opportunity to remind myself that I need to be a better citizen of the world. Which is why, in closing, I want to talk about the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. This is a global organization dedicated to saving lives and protecting the rights of people fleeing conflicts and persecution. So if you have the means, please go to the website and make a donation to this important work that they're doing. And if you don't, you can still go to the website and please do more research and start talking to people in your community, family, friends about this important topic of migrants so that we may start a global dialogue to help these people. My name is Black Sheep. Thank you so much for tuning into the Cosmic Everything, and I will see you next time. Peace.